Nosedive. The social credit society is already here, Black Mirror explained. Welcome, I'm Adeline Atlas, and this is Black Mirror Decoded, where we expose fiction as prophecy. In this episode, we're breaking down Nosedive, an installment of Black Mirror that predicted a future where your social score defines your life. But the disturbing part isn't that this future could happen, it's that much of it already has. Nosedive follows Lacey, a woman living in a world where every interaction is rated out of 5 stars. Every smile, every coffee shop visit, every public conversation feeds into her personal score, an aggregate number that determines her job prospects, her travel eligibility, her housing, and even her friends. It's Yelp meets credit score, meets emotional surveillance, and it's not optional. The episode begins with Lacey obsessively curating her online presence. She practices her laugh, adjusts her food photos, and carefully tailors every interaction to earn high ratings from those around her. Every person she encounters immediately scans her with a phone-like device, swipes, and assigns her a score. The entire economy of status has been gamified into a system of behavioral compliance. What makes Nosedive so prophetic is how it reveals the architecture of modern social control, a world where reputation is quantifiable, instantaneous, and tied to access. It's not about what you've done, it's about how you're perceived. And if that perception drops, so does your ability to function in society. This isn't just speculative fiction, this is already happening. Let's begin with the clearest real-world parallel: China's social credit system. First piloted in the early 2010s, China's national scoring infrastructure aggregates behavioral data, from financial habits and online speech to jaywalking and public associations, to assign individuals a trustworthiness score. Citizens with high scores receive benefits: cheaper loans, faster service, access to better schools. Those with low scores are restricted from buying train tickets, applying for jobs, or booking hotels. In some cases, their faces are displayed on public billboards with the label, "dishonest person." The logic is strikingly similar to Nosedive. Your score is your identity. But this isn't limited to authoritarian states. In the West, the same architecture is unfolding, just privatized and normalized. Consider rideshare platforms like Uber and Lyft, where both drivers and passengers are scored after every interaction. A single awkward conversation can lower your rating. Drop too low, and you may be banned from the service entirely. Now imagine that logic applied to schools, banks, hospitals, dating apps, or real estate platforms, and you begin to see what Nosedive was warning us about. This system is already creeping into insurance underwriting in the United States. Some companies now analyze your phone usage, driving behavior, and even voice tone to assess risk and adjust premiums. Health insurance providers are beginning to evaluate wearable device data to reward or penalize policyholders based on exercise, heart rate, and sleep. The message is simple: behave well or pay more. What Nosedive so effectively reveals is that once you link social approval to material access, authenticity collapses. People stop acting like themselves. They become avatars, performing for points. Lacey isn't happy. She's trapped. Every expression is calculated. Every interaction is a transaction. When she finally breaks from the script and acts with honesty, her score plummets, and with it, her entire life. This is the power of engineered reputation systems. They don't just measure behavior, they shape it. When access is tied to approval, and approval is tied to conformity, you create a culture of sanitized, artificial interaction. No one says what they really think. No one shows what they really feel. Emotional labor becomes currency, and nonconformity becomes punishment. The genius of Nosedive is that it doesn't rely on overt surveillance. There are no police, no punishments, no prisons. Just metrics, just ratings. And yet the control is total. Because the people monitor each other. They become the enforcers. You don't need a dictator when your neighbors are the algorithm. This mirrors the logic of peer-enforced digital conformity on social media. On platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, likes and follower counts determine reach. Controversial or dissenting voices are shadow banned, demonetized, or deplatformed. Users quickly learn what gets rewarded and adjust their content accordingly. This isn't state censorship, it's algorithmic self-censorship, and it's even more effective. In the world of Nosedive, no one has to force Lacey to behave. She polices herself. And when her score finally collapses, after a series of emotionally honest moments, she becomes invisible. People avert their eyes. Services shut her out. Even strangers refuse to associate with her, fearing the reputational damage. This is the final warning: low scores become contagious. In a system where everyone's rating is public, associating with someone unpopular drags you down too. So people avoid risk, they avoid difference, they avoid truth. The result is a society that looks polite, but is utterly hollow. That's what makes Nosedive such an urgent warning. Because the systems we're building now are setting up the same infrastructure: score-based access to housing, loans, dating, and education. Rating culture in every service interaction. Public metrics as proxies for worth. We've created an environment where you are always being reviewed, not just by companies, but by peers, not just for services, but for your identity. And that is where surveillance shifts from infrastructure to ideology. In Nosedive, the surveillance isn't hidden, it's social, public, perpetual. Every interaction is a performance because every person is an audience, and every rating has consequence. This kind of system doesn't need law enforcement or armed drones to enforce compliance. It builds something more effective: emotional dependency on approval. This mirrors the most powerful force in today's digital ecosystem: algorithmic conditioning through reward and punishment. When your ability to travel, rent, buy, or even connect socially becomes tied to reviews or data scores, the path of least resistance is to conform. Not because it's right, but because it's safe. Lacey's story is a metaphor for millions of people today who measure their worth by likes, engagement rates, and social metrics. We're watching a population conditioned not by threat, but by gamified status anxiety. The dopamine hit of being liked has replaced the inner compass of being right. Validation has become the new virtue. In Nosedive, the scariest part isn't the technology. It's that people genuinely believe the system is good. They say it promotes civility, that it encourages kindness, that it helps maintain standards. But what it really maintains is surface-level politeness at the expense of truth. The more Lacey tries to express real emotion, frustration, pain, honesty, the more she is punished. This maps directly onto real-world behavior in corporate and digital life. Employees are routinely evaluated not only on performance, but on attitude, cultural fit, and positivity, vague categories that often reward compliance and punish dissent. Students are graded on participation metrics that track behavior more than critical thinking. Users online are punished not for being wrong, but for being unpopular. China's official system explicitly incorporates sincerity, harmony, and trustworthiness as scoring metrics. But these terms are fluid. A joke at the wrong time, an off-script social post, or a politically insensitive comment can knock your score down, triggering consequences that follow you through multiple areas of life: school, travel, employment, even dating apps. But the same logic is at play in Western systems, just disguised as customer feedback. Consider Airbnb, where renters are rated by hosts and vice versa. Your ability to book a place to sleep is now tied to your behavior as judged by a stranger. A single low rating, even without explanation, can lock you out of a platform. On Uber, if your driver scores you poorly, your future ride options degrade. There is no appeals process, no context, just the score. In Nosedive, these numbers become so normalized that people forget they're arbitrary. A 4-point-something is safe. A 3-point-anything is suspicious. Below that, you're effectively exiled. What this creates is a form of stratified digital classism, where numbers decide access, and deviation is equated with deviance. This is exactly what we're seeing emerge now in automated hiring systems that use AI to pre-screen applicants based on sentiment analysis, facial expressions, tone of voice, and online history. Your resume might never be seen by a human, not because you're unqualified, but because you didn't smile enough in a pre-recorded video. Let's go a level deeper. When society is organized around scores, behavior changes, not just in what people do, but in how they think. Lacey doesn't just want to behave well. She wants to be seen behaving well. That distinction is crucial. Because when performative approval becomes survival, people stop cultivating real values. They chase visibility instead. This is the psychological heart of Nosedive, the erosion of authenticity. And it's exactly what today's digital environments are optimizing for. Instagram filters don't just alter photos. They alter perception, how others see us, how we see ourselves, and what we think normal even is. In the real world, we now have employers checking your social media history before interviews. Banks are experimenting with alternative credit scoring systems that include social data, who you associate with, what you post, what brands you engage with. In 2020, a Harvard study found that social media activity was already being quietly used in fintech risk models. What does this mean? It means the distinction between your public persona and your private access to life resources is dissolving. And that's what Nosedive ultimately dramatizes: the weaponization of visibility. It's not enough to be good. You have to be visibly approved of. And that approval must come from others who are equally trapped in the game. The result? No one is real anymore. Even friendships become transactional. People flatter each other, not to connect, but to earn mutual score bumps. Everyone's a brand, a product, a polished avatar of themselves. Lacey's desire to attend a high-rated wedding isn't about love or joy. It's about boosting her own score by proximity. This is influencer logic, but universalized. Eggers wasn't writing satire in The Circle, and Brooker wasn't fantasizing in Black Mirror. These systems are converging, technologically, behaviorally, and ideologically. Here's the critical point. Once your behavior becomes a public-facing metric, it's not just monitored, it's incentivized and monetized. And when that happens, we cross the line from social sharing into social engineering. In Nosedive, as Lacey's rating begins to drop, her life unravels. Her housing agreement is revoked. Her ability to travel is restricted. People avoid her, not because they dislike her, but because associating with someone who's fallen can damage their own score. This creates a culture of social distancing based on reputation metrics, not health or ethics. This system of control is not enforced by the state. It's maintained by the people. It's not totalitarianism from above. It's a peer-to-peer punishment model where everyone becomes a proxy for the algorithm. This is what makes it so effective and so invisible. This mirrors the behavior we see today in cancel culture, shadow banning, and digital ostracization. If someone becomes controversial, whether for political opinions, personal mistakes, or viral misinterpretation, others often disconnect not out of principle, but out of self-preservation. The fear isn't disagreement, it's guilt by association. What Nosedive dramatizes is a system where disagreement becomes dangerous, and neutrality becomes disloyalty. If you don't rate, comment, share, or post correctly, you're suspect. The result is a kind of emotional surveillance economy where everyone is watching and being watched, not just by cameras, but by each other's moral performance. This type of dynamic is already live in today's world. Think of platforms like LinkedIn, where your network determines not only visibility, but credibility. Or in dating apps, where attractiveness and profile optimization translate directly into algorithmic ranking. Or Amazon, where sellers are forced to maintain 5-star service to stay listed, regardless of customer behavior. This creates a one-directional system of forced niceness where honest communication disappears, and every interaction becomes a performance. The customer isn't just always right, they're your potential executioner. Every relationship is scored. Every score has consequences. In Nosedive, there's a critical moment when Lacey, in desperation, accepts a ride from a woman with a very low score. This woman had once been highly rated, but fell after expressing grief too publicly. The message? Real emotion is penalized. Grief is inconvenient. Rage is impolite. Sadness is destabilizing. So she was downrated. People unfollowed her, avoided her. She lost access to services. All because she broke the emotional performance protocol. This is one of the darkest truths in reputation-based systems. Human complexity becomes a liability. You're rewarded for smiling through crisis, for agreeing when you want to scream, for staying silent when you should speak, and punished for expressing anything that disrupts the engineered harmony of the network. This logic is increasingly reflected in real-world interfaces. Facebook has long optimized for content that is engaging, which typically favors polarizing or emotionally manipulative posts. Meanwhile, platforms like Instagram suppress posts that deviate from polished presentation. TikTok deprioritizes content with people deemed less attractive or low lighting, based on internal filters and assumptions about watchability. The result is a digital world that doesn't just reflect our values, it shapes them. Not by force, but by conditioning. Like rats in a behavioral lab, we quickly learn which behaviors are rewarded and which get us shadow banned. In Nosedive, Lacey ends up completely deplatformed, not by decree, but by degradation. Her score becomes so low that she's removed from society, banned from flights, denied car rentals, rejected from buildings, no appeal, no hearing, just a number. This is the ultimate consequence of digitizing reputation. It becomes irreversible, algorithmic exile. Sound dramatic? It's already happening. In 2020, citizens in China with low social credit scores were blocked from purchasing tickets, applying for jobs, and accessing public services. In the US, Airbnb has permanently banned users based on background checks, not just for criminal behavior, but for potential reputational risk. Uber has banned riders for low ratings. Bank accounts have been frozen over ambiguous compliance flags, triggered not by law, but by automated detection models. In all of these cases, the decision is opaque. The logic is proprietary. The process is automatic. And the consequence is real. This is the world Nosedive exposes, a society where behavioral scoring becomes infrastructure, not just for commerce, but for identity. This is a key shift. Reputation has always mattered. But in the past, it was localized, contextual, nuanced. You could be one person at work, another with friends, and another at home. The fragmentation of identity protected complexity. But when identity becomes digitally unified and universally accessible, that fragmentation disappears. Everyone becomes one persona, optimized for survival. And once that persona is tied to scores, you're no longer a person, you're a profile. And the profile doesn't forgive. If you act out of character, if you break the pattern, the system doesn't ask why. It updates your value, in real time, publicly, permanently. That's why Lacey's fall is so devastating. It's not just about one bad day. It's about a system that doesn't allow for mistakes. No second chances, no grace, just metrics. What Nosedive is ultimately showing us is how systems built to promote civility can end up erasing humanity. When every action is a public rating opportunity, we lose the right to be flawed, to be messy, to be human. In the final act of Nosedive, Lacey's collapse is complete. She's lost her job, her housing, her access to transportation, and her social connections. She crashes the high-status wedding she was once desperate to attend, not out of vengeance, but desperation. Her attempts at sincerity are met with panic. Her score is downgraded in real time. She lashes out publicly. It's the first moment she's been truly honest, and it's the moment she becomes untouchable. She is arrested, stripped of her scoring device, and placed in a jail cell. And that's where the most important transformation happens. For the first time, she's free. No more smiling, no more curating, no more rehearsed politeness. She meets eyes with another inmate, someone equally exiled, and they exchange the first real human interaction of the entire episode. Unfiltered, raw, honest rage, followed by laughter. No scores, no likes, just truth. This is the paradox Nosedive leaves us with. Freedom begins where performative identity ends. It's only outside the system, when Lacey is no longer playing the game, that she experiences genuine connection. And that is perhaps the most radical idea of all. Because Nosedive doesn't just warn us about social credit systems. It forces us to ask, what are we sacrificing in our pursuit of approval? This isn't just about China. It isn't just about big tech. It's about us. When we rate people like products, we treat relationships like transactions. When we perform positivity to avoid punishment, we trade authenticity for access. When we curate ourselves constantly for acceptance, we abandon our inner life. That is the dystopia Nosedive reveals. One where surveillance isn't imposed, it's internalized. One where punishment isn't prison, it's exclusion from the interface. One where power doesn't look like a weapon, it looks like a rating system you agreed to use. Let's connect this to where we are now. The US may not have an official social credit system, but we do have data-driven reputational ecosystems. Credit bureaus track your financial behavior. Employers scan your digital history. Insurers analyze your phone habits and driving data. Health apps report to platforms. AI flags your face, your tone, your typing rhythm. And all of it is used to assess, approve, or deny your access to participation. You're not judged once, you're judged constantly. And that judgment isn't based on truth. It's based on data interpretation. You don't have to be bad. You just have to fall out of alignment. And when systems are built to optimize behavior, nonconformity becomes a glitch. That's what makes this conversation urgent. Because once this architecture is embedded across platforms, governments, insurers, schools, and banks, it becomes invisible. And once it's invisible, it feels inevitable. But it isn't. Nosedive ends with two people in a cell, cut off from the interface, but finally human again. That scene isn't just satire, it's a reminder. There's power in opting out, in being real, in refusing to play a game where humanity is reduced to a decimal. So what does Nosedive teach us? That dystopia doesn't always arrive with violence. Sometimes it arrives with a smile, with a 5-star interface, with a platform that says, it's for your convenience. Sometimes the future doesn't threaten you. It just asks for a rating. And you give it. And over time, you don't even notice that you've rated away your freedom. This is Black Mirror Decoded. The future wasn't fiction. It was rollout. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11x published author, and what you just watched was only a taste of what's inside the Truth series, where we go all the way down the rabbit hole. If you're the kind of person who's always asking bigger questions, who knows there's more to this world than what we've been told, then this is your invitation to the series that was built for you. Inside the Truth series, you'll get full access to 6 mind-blowing sub-series designed to wake up your highest intelligence and decode the matrix we live in. 1. Locate the truth. Learn how to actually research. Not just what to search, but how to verify, cross-reference, read declassified files, and protect your own mind from weaponized misinformation. This is truth-seeking, decoded. 2. The Mandela effect. Are we shifting timelines? Why do so many people remember a different past? We break down the most bizarre, undeniable examples of reality glitches and what they tell us about consciousness and control. 3. Law is magic. Law is not what you think it is. From word spells to maritime law and hidden contracts, we uncover how legal systems use language like a wand and how to stop being tricked by fine print that binds you without consent. 4. Entertainment or ritual. The Hollywood and music industries are not just for entertainment. From Super Bowl rituals to Grammy stage symbolism, we decode what's really being shown, who it serves, and why mass consciousness is the target. 5. Decoding dystopia. Ever wondered why dystopian fiction feels prophetic? In this subseries, we decode popular films and books, Hunger Games, 1984, Black Mirror, to reveal the hidden blueprints and predictive programming behind the plot. 6. MK Ultra plus mind control programs. This one gets deep. From real MK Ultra documents to modern symbolism in media, we expose how mind control operates in plain sight and how to free yourself from manipulation you didn't even know was happening. And that's just the beginning. If this resonated with you, click the links below and join us inside the Full Truth series, because the more you know, the harder you are to control. This is your awakening. We don't just ask questions, we find answers. Let's go all the way down the rabbit hole together.